Okay, so today I'm going to try and explain the art of pricing, and I'm going to try and do it in 10 minutes, which will be a challenge. And at, I suppose, its most simple level, the price that you put on your services or your product needs to include your costs, and your costs cover all your operational functions. And then you also need to consider your margin. And your margin is really what you need for your growth and for your investment or to build up your reserves. Okay, so today I'm going to focus on pricing services because, as far as I'm aware, everybody in the room works in the services sector. At least I'm not aware of anyone in the manufacturing side. So I'm just going to go through the steps in the process of coming up with your pricing model, and then at the end, I'm just going to show you quickly a very simple pricing decision-making tool just to give you a flavor of what it is I deliver customers at the end of the process. I'm hoping by showing you that tool that as I go through the steps in the process, and you might go, what has this got to do with pricing? Why do I need so much information? That when you actually look at the tool, it'll bring it all together for you and you'll realize why they're important. And then there'll be opportunity for questions at the end. Okay, so pricing services, it's not an exact science, and its process is important, and this is one of the reasons why I chose the analogy to creative or artistic work, because I think, as Nicole showed us when she went through her 10-minute presentation, she showed us what goes on behind the scenes from when she takes the picture to the finished product, and you could see that actually the process is crucial to getting a good picture. And it's the same with pricing. So as I go through the process, keep in mind that the more effort you put into your process, the better your pricing model or your pricing strategy will be. Okay, so context really is everything. Anyone that has listened to me before will know that I put a very high value on understanding the context of your operations. This is just a framework that I used when doing a context analysis with businesses. There is a whole presentation on this slide itself. All I want to highlight at the moment is that if you look at the various headings, you can see how they'd influence your pricing policy. I mean, at the market, your competitor prices, government policies, tax, regulatory charges, labour supply will impact your wages, the economy will impact how much people are willing to pay. Again, changes in customer trends. Are people willing to pay more if they know that you're environmentally friendly and socially responsible? All these things are important. Okay, so of crucial importance is to know what it is you want for your business, and what are your targets, what are your objectives, because they will influence your pricing strategy. If you just look at the sustainability objective there, and these are just sample objectives, but if you look at sustainability, it's to reduce your overheads by 5%, and that could be that because you need to make your pricing more competitive. But then you see, when you look at your growth objective, is that you want to increase market share by 10%. So perhaps it's the case that you will actually keep your prices low to increase market share, and that you're going to keep your profitability stable by actually reducing your overheads at the same time. And then you look at the quality objective. I have their BPR systems, invest in the system. So that's your business process re-engineering. So again, if you're actually trying to increase market share while reducing overheads and staying competitive, systems will play a key role. So hopefully this just gives you a flavor of how your objectives need to influence your pricing strategy. And then if you don't know what your objectives are, well, then really there's not much point in having a pricing strategy. You might as well just charge where your competitors charge. Gather your data. This is very important. So typically the data that I need anyway to be able to do a good pricing model is, you need to know the number of jobs or units that you produced in or delivered in 2020, or the previous year, in this case 2020, your total sales in 2020, details of all costs, every single cost in 2020, and then your labor hours per job, including travel. So these can be difficult and time consuming to get. The more accurate they are, the better. You don't want to have to spend weeks and weeks and weeks on gathering this information, because the time it takes, it'll just lose its value. So it really is ideal, I'd say crucial, but ideal if you have good information systems, and it's worth investing in your information systems, because they will give you this data, and I'll give it to you quickly and when you need it, which will just make your decision making more effective. Again, back to the analogy that pricing, it's not an exact science. It's like, it's a process. So as things will change, your pricing needs to be able to change. You want to be able to access the data when you need it. And also, as the old saying, rubbish in, rubbish out. I mean, that's if the information you gather here is just rubbish, your pricing is going to be rubbish as well. And I would also say that when you're looking at your costs or your sales, you also need information on anything that's a once-off. If it's not going to be consistent year on year, you shouldn't include it in your pricing. Other information you need is your current pricing, what you use at the moment, and you need to know your competitors' pricing and prices, and then also a target margin if you have one. And this will come from your budget. So you need to do your projections for 2021. And I'm not really talking about, just kind of, your targets, your target budget, which is what you strive for. When it comes to pricing, you really need to be prudent and realistic. So, I would say, plan for the worst and hope for the best, because you need to remember that, and this is back to the first slide, is that whatever pricing you're charging, it has to cover all your costs. So throw the kitchen sink in there. If it's all covered in your pricing, again, keeping in mind that it needs to be competitive. Anything that happens beyond that will be a bonus. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the toolkit, and what you see here is essentially the master sheet of an Excel worksheet that actually contains about four or five different sheets that have information on costs, forecasts, salaries, capex, and a variety of different operational financial inputs. For this company here, I've basically chosen a web design company that offers 3 services. They do websites, digital marketing, and SEO. So I'm just going to go through what this sheet means just for the websites. The main 2 things you want to look at here are the blue, and what this sheet does, it's calculated your total cost per unit. And so for websites, you see that the total costs is just over €2,000, and at the moment you're charging €3,000 to €5,000. So on the face of it, that looks good. So how has this worked out? So I'll take you first to, you have the number of jobs in 2020, and this is what we need to start with, and then you then project your number of jobs in 2021. So here we have a 10% uplift in line with our objective. Then you need to calculate your total labor input hours, and this can be broken down. This company in particular subcontracts some of its work out. It's more complex development, so it's split generally for websites 8% for contract hours and 20% for their own staff hours. And basically what you do then is you work from this, you work out a cost of sales, a cost of goods sold per unit total. So this is your €684. But then we have to allocate, down here you see €155,000, and this is all the overheads in your business. So that'll be your rent, your rates, your salaries for staff that work across all 3 services, your professional fees, accounting fees, printing fees, all the regular overheads that businesses have. And they're allocated per estimated hours for each service, because service it's a people-driven function. So it's the hours that actually drive the cost. So they're allocated on a proportionate basis of the hours used per the units, per the labor input hours that you have decided. And so this adds another €1,400 onto your cost per unit for websites, assuming 77 units for the period. So your total cost is 2,106. Now I just want to show you something here. So we've done the same exercise for the 3, and when you look, you see that the total cost of sales for Sesame Street for the direct labour cost is 32,000. But actually, you want to validate this. So this is back to the garbage in, garbage out, or rubbish in, rubbish out slide, and that you want to make sure your data is accurate. So clearly there's something wrong here, because when you look at your salary costs for people working directly on services, you see it's 66,000. So clearly there's something missing there. There's hours missing. Now it could be something exceptional. Maybe somebody went on sick leave for 2 months, or maybe somebody got seconded to a once-off project and lost productivity there, but that is something you want to look into. Something's not right there. Ideally, you want these two numbers to be pretty close matching. You can see here that when it works out the total cost of your contractor hours, and then you compare that to your accounts, what's in for your third-party contractors, you can see that that's actually quite accurate. So hopefully what you can see here is, so this is the tool. You need to get these numbers right. If you don't get these numbers right, these mean nothing. I mean, on the face of it, it looks like, your websites, yeah, we're making money in this, but you're only breaking even on the digital marketing and the SEO. However, we know that something is wrong in there. So hopefully this just highlights how it's back to that it's a process. It's a decision-making toolkit. It's not a science. It's more of an art. But having something like this will enable you to make more effective decisions. So I hope you found that presentation useful. If anyone has any questions, please contact me on info@carolmcgee.ie. Thank you.